Story 1.
I walked into that Starbucks on a chilly October morning. The door chimed as I stepped inside, and the scent of freshly brewed coffee filled the air. I needed my usual, a caramel macchiato, but this time, something strange was waiting for me. Behind the counter was a tall, dark-haired man named Victor. His eyes had an eerie, almost hypnotic quality to them. He flashed a knowing smile as he handed me a menu. "Try something special today," he suggested. "A drink not on the menu," he said, "the Lost Souls latte." I was intrigued, so I nodded. "Sure, why not? Surprise me." Victor started crafting the mysterious concoction. Steam hissed from the espresso machine, and he began adding strange ingredients. There were bits of black licorice, a pinch of cinnamon, and a few drops of an inky purple syrup. As he handed it to me, his fingers brushed mine, sending a shiver down my spine. The drink looked dark and brooding, and I hesitated before taking a sip. The moment the liquid touched my lips, a strange sensation washed over me. It was like an electric jolt, and I felt a sudden rush of dizziness. Victor's eyes locked onto mine as if he were trying to peer into my soul. I took a gulp, and the taste was unlike anything I'd ever experienced. Bitter and sweet, with a hint of something I couldn't quite place. It was hypnotic, drawing me in deeper with each sip. That night, as I lay in bed, I began to drift into a deep sleep. That's when the dreams started. Vivid, disturbing dreams that felt terrifyingly real. In my dream, I found myself in a desolate, fog-shrouded place. I was surrounded by twisted, gnarled trees, and the air was heavy with an otherworldly chill. I heard faint whispers and eerie laughter in the distance, sending a shiver down my spine. The dream continued to grow more intense each night. I saw shadowy figures moving in the mist, and they seemed to be beckoning me deeper into this eerie realm. I couldn't escape, and I couldn't wake up. It was as if the Lost Souls latte had opened a door to a sinister, dark dimension. I couldn't shake the feeling that Victor was somehow involved in this nightmare. I returned to the Starbucks, hoping to confront him. But when I entered, the place was empty, and the lights flickered ominously. As I approached the counter, I noticed a mysterious journal lying there. It was filled with cryptic symbols and writings all about the Lost Souls latte. It mentioned how the drink was a bridge to the infernal abyss, a place where the souls of the lost were trapped, and Victor was its sinister gatekeeper. I was filled with dread, realizing I had become entangled in something far beyond my understanding. The dreams continued to haunt me, and I knew I had to find a way to break free from their grip. Desperate, I sought the help of a paranormal expert, Dr. Lawrence, who specialized in the occult. He explained that the Lost Souls latte was a concoction made from ingredients found in the darkest corners of the supernatural world. Victor had become a servant to this otherworldly realm, and the drink was his means of drawing unwitting souls into it. Dr. Lawrence and I devised a plan to confront Victor and put an end to the nightmare. Armed with knowledge and protection charms, we returned to the Starbucks. As we confronted Victor, his eyes blazed with malevolent power. He tried to draw us into the infernal abyss, but we stood our ground. Dr. Lawrence recited an incantation that severed Victor's connection to the dark realm. The cafe shook, and Victor let out an anguished scream before collapsing to the floor. The dreams ceased, and the eerie fog lifted from the Starbucks. Victor, no longer the sinister gatekeeper, lay unconscious. We had broken the curse, but I couldn't help feeling a strange mix of pity and horror for him. From that day forward, I stayed away from secret menu drinks and mysterious baristas. The Lost Souls latte had taught me a terrifying lesson about the things that can lurk beneath the surface of the everyday world. I would never forget the chilling taste of that otherworldly drink and the sinister gatekeeper who served it.
Story 2.
I used to work at a Starbucks on a quiet street in a little town. It was your typical coffee shop, filled with the usual hustle and bustle, but everything changed one gloomy autumn morning. A group of customers started coming in, and they were anything but ordinary. They walked in one by one, yet always ordered their drinks in perfect unison. A tall, creepy woman with long, flowing hair would step up to the counter, her voice cold and distant, and say, "We'll have 3 pumpkin spice lattes." Then 2 others would echo in eerie harmony, "3 pumpkin spice lattes." I couldn't help but notice they were always dressed in dark, matching robes. Their faces seemed strangely pallid, and their eyes held an unsettling, distant look. My curiosity was piqued, and I couldn't help but wonder who they were and what they were up to. At first, their conversations were strange but harmless. They'd sit at a corner table, their hushed voices creating a bizarre symphony of cryptic words. It was as if they were speaking in some sort of code. The customers and I would exchange puzzled glances, but they seemed more bizarre than harmful. However, as the days went by, the group's behavior took a darker turn. They'd bring peculiar objects into the coffee shop: strange coffee beans, intricate coffee mugs, and old dusty coffee grinders. I could sense something ominous lurking behind their rituals. One day, as I was wiping down the counter, I overheard their conversation. They spoke of strange legends and myths about the origins of coffee. I couldn't make sense of it all, but I knew it was something far more sinister than I had ever imagined. My curiosity got the best of me, and I began digging into their world, their dark secrets. After my shift, I followed one of them discreetly, my heart pounding in my chest. They led me to an old, abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town. I watched from a safe distance as they gathered around a makeshift altar, adorned with coffee-related paraphernalia. They began chanting in eerie unison, and the air grew thick with tension. I couldn't see everything, but what I witnessed sent shivers down my spine. The group held strange, twisted coffee ceremonies, invoking spirits and whispering words that chilled me to the bone. It was like they were worshipping coffee in the most twisted way possible. I also heard about planned ceremonies that involved the slaughter of animals for their purposes. It was cruel and needed to be stopped. As weeks passed, I couldn't escape the feeling that our Starbucks had become the front for some kind of sinister cult. They used our coffee shop as a meeting place, a facade to hide their dark rituals. Desperation set in as I realized the danger I was in. I had seen too much, and I knew too much. If they discovered that I had been spying on them, I could be in grave danger. I decided to confide in a close friend, Sarah. Together, we researched the strange symbols and rituals I had witnessed. The more we dug, the more we discovered a hidden world of coffee-themed cults with a dark and disturbing history. With the help of Sarah, we gathered evidence and went to the authorities, revealing the existence of this sinister cult. It was a long and harrowing process, but eventually they were exposed, and their rituals were put to an end. The Starbucks returned to its normal, bustling self, and the strange group of customers vanished from our lives. But I couldn't help but shudder every time I made a latte or brewed a fresh pot of coffee. The memory of that sinister coffee cult would haunt me forever, a reminder that even the most ordinary places can hide the darkest secrets.
Story 3.
It was a regular morning when I stumbled upon the tiny, out-of-the-way Starbucks. I had been taking the same route to work for years, but somehow I had never noticed this place before. It was tucked away in a quiet corner, hidden behind a row of tall buildings. A small sign by the entrance simply read, "Starbucks." Stepping inside, I was greeted by the familiar aroma of freshly brewed coffee. The place seemed ordinary enough, with the usual assortment of tables and chairs. There was a low hum of conversation from a few patrons, most of whom were immersed in their laptops or books. The only thing that struck me as odd was the eerie silence in the shop, despite the presence of a few customers. I approached the counter, and that's when I first saw him, the barista, Alex. He was a young man with disheveled hair and an unsettling demeanor. His pale blue eyes bore into mine, and a chilling smile played on his lips. I shuddered involuntarily but managed to muster up a polite greeting. "I'll have a caramel macchiato, please," I said. Before I could even finish my order, Alex leaned in, his voice a soft, eerie whisper. "Caramel macchiato, extra caramel, extra foam, right?" I nodded, my heart racing. How had he known exactly what I wanted before I said a word? I tried to pass it off as a lucky guess, paid for my coffee, and found a seat by the window. Over the next few days, I couldn't shake the eerie encounter from my mind. I decided to give the Starbucks another chance and returned the following morning. I ordered a chai latte, and once again, before I could speak, Alex recited my order, even specifying that it should be extra spicy. As the days turned into weeks, I found myself visiting the obscure Starbucks more frequently. It was as though I was drawn to it, unable to resist the uncanny knowledge that Alex seemed to possess. He predicted my orders flawlessly, each time getting the details just right. I started to experiment with my orders, hoping to stump him. I ordered obscure drinks with bizarre combinations of syrups and toppings, but Alex always knew exactly what I wanted. It was as if he could read my thoughts. My coworkers began to notice my newfound obsession. They teased me about my mysterious barista, but I couldn't help myself. I felt an unexplainable connection to that place. The coffee seemed to fill a void I hadn't even known was there, and I couldn't imagine starting my day without it. One rainy morning, as I approached the Starbucks, my umbrella in hand, I couldn't help but wonder about the eerie connection between Alex and me. I had read enough books and watched enough movies to know that supernatural elements could be at play here. Perhaps he was a warlock or a psychic, using his powers to keep me coming back. I even contemplated telling my friends about it, but I knew they'd think I was crazy. I ordered my usual coffee and decided to confront Alex about his uncanny abilities. "How do you always know what I want?" I asked, my voice quivering. Alex paused for a moment, his eerie smile fading slightly. "I have a gift, a connection to people's desires. It's my way of making their day a little brighter." His response didn't put my mind at ease. It only deepened my suspicions. What kind of gift could allow someone to know my deepest desires? The coffee in front of me suddenly seemed less inviting. As the weeks turned into months, my reliance on that Starbucks grew. It felt as though Alex had become an integral part of my life. I couldn't start my day without a visit to his coffee shop, and he always knew what I needed, often before I did. One fateful morning, I walked into the Starbucks only to find it empty. The usual hum of conversation was gone, and the lights flickered ominously. Alex stood behind the counter, his eyes now a darker shade of blue, and his smile more sinister than ever. "I have been waiting for you," he said, his voice sending shivers down my spine. "You've become so reliant on me, Lisa, and now it's time for you to give something in return." My heart raced and I felt a strange compulsion to obey. I tried to run, but I couldn't move. Alex stepped closer, his presence suffocating. "Your desires sustain me, Lisa, and now it's time to satisfy mine." The room grew darker, and I could feel my life force draining away. I had become entangled in a supernatural web woven by this enigmatic barista. And now, there was no escape. As my vision dimmed and I felt myself slipping away, I realized the terrifying truth. The Starbucks and the eerie barista were not just serving coffee. They were feeding off my desires, my soul, and there was no escaping their clutches. I had become a prisoner of my own cravings, forever bound to that tiny, obscure Starbucks, where every morning would be the same, and every sip would be a taste of the supernatural.
Subscribe for more videos.